So everybody has this book in front of you. Okay. इनका वीडियो बंद है, वो भी if they wish to start, they can start. It would be nice. Thank you. Shweta Mati, you'll recite verse after me? Yes. Unmute yourself. Panchajanyam Hrishikesho
Panchajanyam Hrishikesho
Devadattam Dhananjaya
Devadattam Dhananjaya
Pondram Dadmo Mahashankam
Pondram Dado Mahashankam
Bhima Karma Vrakodara
Bhima Karma Prakodara
Panchajanyam Hrishikesho
Panchajanyam Hrishikesho
Devadattam Dhananjaya
Devadattam Dhananjaya
Pondram Dadmo Mahashankha
Pondram Dado Mahashankam
Dadmo Pondram Dadmo Mahashankam
Pondram Dadmo Mahashankam
Bhima Karma Vrakodara.
Bhima Karma Prakodara.
Very nice. Wonderful. So, word by word meaning is like this. Panchjanyam, the conch shell named Panchjanya. Rishi Keshaha, Hrishikesha, Krishna, the Lord who directs the senses of devotees. Devadattam, the conch shell named Devadatta. Dhananjaya. Dhananjaya means Arjuna, the winner of wealth. Pondram, the conch named Pondra. Dadmo, blue. Mahashankam, the terrific conch shell. Bhima Karma, one who performs Herculean tasks. Vrakodara, the voracious eater, means Bhima. Translation purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Lord Krishna blew his conch shell called Panchjanya. Arjuna blew his, the Devadatta, and Bhima, the voracious eater and performer of Herculean tasks, blew his terrific conch shell called Pondra. Please repeat after me. Lord Krishna blew his conch shell called Panchjanya. Arjuna blew his Devadatta, and Bhima, the voracious eater and performer of Herculean tasks, blew his terrific conch shell called Pondra. So, who would like to read the purport? Shreya Mataji. You have book with you? Okay.
Yeah. Yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Lord Krishna is referred to as Hrishikesha in this verse because he is the owner of all senses. The living entities are part and parcel of him, and therefore the senses of the living entities are also part and parcel of his senses. The impersonalist cannot account for the senses of the living entities, and therefore they are always anxious to describe all living entities as senseless or impersonal. The Lord, situated in the hearts of all living entities, directs their senses, but he directs in terms of the surrender of the living entity. And in the case of pure devotee, he directly controls the senses. Here, on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, the Lord directly controls the transcendental senses of Arjuna, and thus his particular name of Hrishikesha. The Lord has different names according to his different activities. For example, his name is Madhusudana because he killed a demon named Madhu. His name is Govinda because he gives pleasure to the cows and to the senses. His name is Vasudeva because he appeared as a son of Vasudeva. His name is Devaki Nandana because he accepted Devaki as his mother. His name is Yashoda Nandana because he awarded his childhood pastimes to Yashoda at Vrindavana. His name is Partha Sarathi because he worked as charioteer and of his friend Arjuna. Similarly, his name is Hrishikesha because he gave direction to Arjuna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Arjuna is referred to as Dhananjaya in this verse because he helped his elder brother in fetching wealth when it was required by the king to make expenditures for different sacrifices. Similarly, Bhima is known as Vrikodara because he could eat as voraciously as he could perform Herculean tasks such as killing the demon Hidimba. So the particular types of conch shells blown by the different personalities on the side of Pandavas, beginning with the lords, were all very encouraging to the fighting soldiers. On the other side, there were no such credits, nor the presence of Lord Krishna, the supreme director, nor that of goddess of fortune. So they were predestined to lose the battle, and that was the message announced by the sounds of the conch shells.
Thank you, Shreya. So, so in the last verse, Sanjaya mentioned that Krishna and Arjuna, they sounded their transcendental conch shells. And in this verse, he's telling the names of those conch shells. And the name of conch shell blown by Krishna is Panchjanya. Arjuna is Devadatta. And Bhima's conch shell is Poundra. And all these names have a specific pastime story behind them. Right? For example, Krishna's conch shell with the name Panchjanya. When Krishna finished his education in Sandipni Muni's Gurukul, he studied for 64 days only and learned 64 arts in 64 days. Krishna Balaram. And when he was leaving, he said, Guru Dakshina. Then Sandipni Muni thought, he is not an ordinary person. Let me ask something extraordinary. He is Lord himself, he can do anything. So he said, a year back, our son drowned in a sea and died. Please get our son back. This is an extraordinary demand. You and me cannot fulfill this demand. But Krishna is capable of fulfilling this demand. So Krishna went to that sea, and where his son had drowned, went inside the sea and killed the demon who had swallowed that son. And the demon was in the form of a conch shell. His name was Panchjanya. Krishna killed him, but the son was not there. So Krishna took this conch shell and went to where? Yamaraj. Where the son was paying for his, whatever, reactions. And then he blew that conch shell in that planet where Yamaraj stays. And the moment he blew, all the living entities in that planet started getting delivered. Well, it was transcendental sound, not ordinary sound. Right? And then brought the son of Sandipani back into the house of Sandipani from there. So the same shank he is blowing now in the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Panchjanya. Right? This is one. Another, Krishna is being referred by different names. Devaki Nandan, Radha Shyam Sundar, Nand Nandan, Madhusudana, based on certain pastime. Right? Krishna has two types of names. One is called primary, second is called secondary. Secondary names are those names which are in relation with this material world. Like Jagadish. Jagadish means what? Controller of this material world. Jagadish. Jagat Isha. Isha means controller, which comes from Ishwar. And Jagat means Jagat, material world. So controller of this material world. So name which is in relation to this material world, they are secondary names. Okay. Tell me some other name like this, which is in relation to this material world. Secondary names. Paramatma is another secondary name. Yes. Any other name which comes to your mind?
Is it Parthasarthi?
Parthasarthi, actually, it lies between both secondary and primary. Okay, thank you, Priti Mataji. Any other name?
Shyam Sundar.
There is primary name. Shyam Sundar is not in relation to this material world.
Yashoda Nandan.
This is primary.
Is primary.
Yashoda is Krishna's eternal mother in spiritual world.
Jagannath.
Madhusudanam.
Madhusudana, yes, because he killed a demon here. Yes, Dharmendra Prabhu.
Dwarkadhish.
Dwarkadish. Dwarkadish is also eternal because Dwarka is an eternal planet which manifested in material world.
Jagannath.
Jagannath, yes.
Govinda,
Govinda is a primary name.
primary.
Yeah, you understood. Any name which is in relation to this material world is secondary, and the other names are original in relation to the devotees. You know, Yashoda Nandan or Devaki Nandan. They are primary names. Now, what is this Hrishikesha? Very, very important term. And we need to understand the significance of this term. Hrishikesha is made up of two basically words, Rishika and Ishaha. Rishika means senses, Indriya. Ishaha means controller. Okay. One who controls our senses is called Hrishikesha. So हमारे हाथ हिलते हैं, हमारे कान सुनते हैं, आंखें देखती हैं, नाक सुनता है. Ultimately, these are actually senses controlled by Krishna, not by us. That's why his name is called Hrishikesha. Hrishikesha. So there are 5 knowledge acquiring senses. कौन सी हैं? What are the 5 knowledge acquiring senses? ज्ञान इंद्रियां, जहां से हम ज्ञान प्राप्त करते हैं, इनके माध्यम से क्या क्या है? 5.
Eye, ear, nose, tongue.
Eyes, ears,
Nose,
nose,
tongue.
tongue, and skin. Touch. So when we touch, we can find out it's soft or hard simply by touch. So we acquire some knowledge. When we see, we can acquire some knowledge, beautiful or ugly. Correct. We can. When we hear, we can also make out, sweet sound or bad sound. So we acquire knowledge of the senses. And there are 5 karmendriya, working senses: hands, legs, anus, genitals, tongue. Tongue is also a working sense, we are responsible for what we speak. So speaking also brings karmic reactions. So we should be very careful what we speak. Normally we are very loose in terms of what we speak, isn't it? We take it for granted and speak anything. That brings karmic reactions. So tongue is another working sense. So like this, there are different senses. We have a choice to try to control the senses ourselves or to let Krishna control the senses. Which is a better choice? Which is the better choice?
Krishna.
Krishna controls the senses.
Huh? Why? In Bhagavad Gita, also, I'll show in presentation and we'll try to learn few aspects of this term. Very important subject matter, very relevant in our day-to-day life. So please listen carefully. Can you see this screen?
Yeah.
It's fully blown, or it is in which mode? Presentation mode? No,
It's in isn't present. No, it's in a PowerPoint mode.
just hold on. Is it okay now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a verse from second chapter. It says, Tani sarvani samyamya yukta asit matpara vashehi yashendriyani tasya pragya pratishtita. One who restrains his senses, keeping them under full control, and fixes his consciousness upon me, just hold on, is known as a man of intelligence. I wanted to share some other words, just hold on. Okay. Again, same as I don't know what is the problem. Okay, I'll read the verse. There's some problem sharing. It says, Yatto hi api konteya purushasya vipashita indriyani parmathini haranti prasabham manaha. Which means the senses are so strong and impetuous, O Arjuna, that they forcibly carry away the mind even of a man of discrimination who is endeavoring to control them. So here Krishna in second chapter is highlighting, he's making a very important point. What is he saying? He's saying that even a learned person who can discriminate between good and bad, even it is difficult for him to control his senses. Why? The senses forcibly carry away the mind even of a man of discrimination. Yani ki, in our own capacity, it is extremely difficult to control the sense. Okay, yeah, now see this. Can you see the screen now? Yes?
Yes.
The senses are so strong and impetuous, O Arjuna, that they forcibly carry away the mind, even of a man of discrimination who is endeavoring to control them. One who is very learned and trying to control his senses, even he fails to do so. The bottom line is we cannot control these senses ourselves. You have heard about this example of Vishwamitra. Suna hai aapne? He was a very learned sage. He's meditating, trying to control his senses. But the moment Menaka arrives, sent by Indra, and she starts dancing, and ankles start producing some sound, sweet sound, and this learned sage is baffled. He loses control on his senses. आपने सुना है इसके बारे में, about this pastime? Have you heard about this?
Yes.
Why such a learned person is not able to control his senses? He got up and embraced Menaka, who was meditating for years together, trying to control his senses, and he failed simply by hearing, ankles noise or whatever sound. Have you experienced like this? That we also lose control by hearing something or by seeing something or by smelling something or by touching something. Give me some example. Meenakshi Mataji, Hare Krishna. Give me some example.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Like by the smell of some good food being cooked, you feel like eating.
Very good. Something you can't control, you want it immediately, isn't it? What
Yeah.
else? Anyone else? Himanshu Prabhuji. This subject is very close to all of us. We face this every day.
Yeah, Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, this is quite common actually.
Uh,
Many a times even some is having diabetes. They are not supposed to take some sweets and all. But they cannot control when the sweet is before him.
Very good.
They know that if they take it, they will die. I mean, that is dangerous for them. But still they cannot control.
Very good. Wonderful. Okay, thank you. Dharmendra Prabhu.
As we are attending this online session, so in between our kids are coming and they are just sounding anything. So we easily get distracted actually.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Rita Mataji.
When you hear any music, if you're fond of dancing, your feet start moving.
Yeah. Thank you. Wonderful. Anyone else? So many examples you can give. Okay, we'll see some examples going forward. So another example of a learned person. I am showing here two examples. On the left-hand side, you see this person is known as Ajamila. His name is Ajamila. He was a Brahmin, 25 around years old. And he went to a forest to collect some flowers for his worship, deity worship. And in the jungle, he saw in a secluded place one, Shudra embracing a prostitute, Shudrani. And when he saw this scene, he just couldn't control. He couldn't move from there. He is a Brahmana. He is remembering all what he has learned from Vedas. He is trying to tell him, Baba, this is not right. This is not right. But his feet are not moving. Mentally he's thinking this what I'm doing is not right, but his feet is stuck to the ground, not moving at all. His eyes are not moving at all. Now, because he could not control this moment, and what happened after this? He saw this and he was going back to his house. On the way, he was meditating on what he saw. And by the time he reached home, he developed a desire to embrace her, to bring her home. Then he went and proposed this prostitute to marry. He was already married. He had few children also. He married the prostitute, brought her home, kicked his wife out, kicked his children out, and then lived with that prostitute for many, many years and produced many children. This pastime comes from Srimad Bhagavatam. Now see, a few moments of watching something which is not favorable, he lost so much. Krishna will talk about this science in second subject. What exactly happens when we see something and we meditate? What happens? There's a science behind this. Dhyayato vishayan pumsha sangastecha vijayate. When you see something and you meditate, you develop attachment with that subject or object. And when you develop attachment, you feel like possessing it immediately. You develop a desire to own it. If there's an obstacle in obtaining the desire, it leads to anger, krodha. Krodha bhavati sammoha. Krishna explained wonderfully through these two verses how fall down happens. Simply by little bit of association like Ajamil had. So our eyes have this kind of association every day. When we watch television, when we see newspaper, when we see magazines. And that's how we develop these dirty desires in our mind, due to wrong association of eyes with wrong things. And we cannot control these senses ourselves. And we end up committing some sinful action. On the right hand side, you see this is Shobri Muni. He thought, it is so difficult to meditate outside. So many distractions. Let me go inside the water and meditate. So he went inside the water. But inside the water, he saw one male and female fish uniting with each other in the water. And he developed desire to marry. He came out and he married 50 princes of King Mandata. 50 princes, 50 daughters of Mandata. Can't control. So even such learned, intelligent, Vidwan sages cannot control. How can we control? Isn't it? So this is very, very important. All the crimes, sinful acts happen in the society only because of loss of control of senses. There is no other reason. So this is an important subject and one has to learn how to control them or how to enable Krishna control, because he is the master of senses. Hrishikesha means master, owner of senses. Correct? You see this example, I'm sure you all can, immediately. Who is this person?
Bill Clinton.
And who is this young lady?
Monica.
So he also lost control. Prime Minister, President of the United States of America losing his control of senses. And what to say of ordinary person, isn't it? Examples you gave me already. You see this? This is tongue out of control. It happens with us or no?
Yes.
है ना? हमारा पेट भर जाता है लेकिन मन नहीं भरता है. Still keep eating. Isn't it? This is eyes out of control, watching pornography. Eyes out of control. Right? See this? Touch out of control. Skin touch out of control. This is one nice verse which talks about 5 different animals, how they meet their end just because of one sense out of control, being out of control. Kuranga matanga patanga bhiranga meena hata pancha bhirev pancha ekaha pramadi sakatham nahnyate ya sevate panchabhi eva pancha. Deer, elephant, moth, bee, and fish. Example, deer. If the hunter plays the sound of a flute. Nice, beautiful sound. This deer becomes statue, cannot move. Deer gets so engrossed in that sound, can't move, and hunter can easily hunt the deer very easily. Not moving, becomes statue. बच्चे खेलते हैं ना, statue, statue, statue. Deer becomes a statue. It's very easy for hunter to kill the deer. So this is ear being out of control. Elephant is captured by sending a female elephant behind him, who simply touches this male elephant and runs away, and this male elephant becomes mad and runs in a direction where you have a big khadda in which you capture this elephant. Can't control. Moth. When moth sees fire, Agni, the moth is attracted by that light emanating from fire. So this moth moves towards the fire, feels some heat, but still cannot control. It goes even more closer to the fire, and finally it is consumed by the fire. You have seen, these moths dying when they go close to the fire, consume the fire. Can't control. So much of attraction with the light of fire. Similarly, this bee, when bee is sucking or smelling, the nectar from lotus flower, again gets so engrossed, doesn't move from there, and in the night all the petals close. By morning, bee is dead. And fish, how do you capture a fish? By a little bit of some eatable stuck on it. क्या बोलते हैं उसको? Technically, what is it called?
Bait.
Bait.
Right. So can't control, tries to eat and gets captured. So even one sense becomes a reason for their disaster. And then it said, Eka pramadi sakatam nahannete ye sevate pancha bhi. But human beings have five senses working at the same time, like this. Tongue trying to desire something, ears trying to desire something else, eyes trying to desire something else. Five working, five senses like five wives pulling the man, husband in different directions. And it happens with us every day. So how do we control these senses? Krishna reveals this science in Bhagavad Gita. Right? He says, Tani sarvani samyamya. Samyamya matlab keeping under control. Yukta asit matpara. Engage them matpara with me, the master of senses. He says, if you want to control, engage these senses with me in my association, because I am the one who is owner or the controller of these senses. Vashehi yashendriya. Vashe means full control. Indriyani pragya pratishtata. One who restrains his senses, keeping them under full control and fixes his consciousness upon me, is known as a man of steady intelligence. His senses become steady, mind becomes steady, intelligence becomes steady. How? By bringing these senses or making these senses associate with the master of senses or the controller of senses. These senses come under control. This is a formula. So how do we bring these senses in association of Krishna? To different examples. For example, when we go to temple, we see beautiful form of Krishna in the form of deities, correct? So if you see Krishna's deity again and again, your desire for the eyes to see, other things goes down naturally. For example, if you're habituated to see cinema, right? After you see Krishna every day, your desire to see cinema will come down. Your desire to see TV will come down. Guarantee. So if you take darshan of Krishna, use I in taking darshan of Krishna, in associating with Krishna's form, and dirty desires of the eyes will come down. Eyes will come under control. This is very subtle science, but very practical and very effective. All devotees, they used to go to cinema very frequently. We were in Bombay, used to go to cinema very frequently. Now there's no desire. So it is natural. No extra endeavor required to control the eyes. Simply take darshan of the deities every day. When you offer food to Krishna and touch it with your tongue in the form of prasadam, it brings tongue under control. So tongue stops venturing outside. This restaurant, that desire goes down. If you're eating prasadam every day, every meal is prasadam, your tongue desires to venture out and try junk food will come down. When you chant regularly through tongue, your tongue will come under control. These two things should be done with tongue. One, chanting and eating prasadam. Tongue will come under control. Okay, so remind me, maybe next session we'll spend maybe 5-10 minutes on how to offer food to Krishna. Okay. When you touch the deities with your skin, you do deity abhishek, you do shringar of deities. कुछ लोग घर में लड्डू गोपाल जी होते हैं, उनका श्रृंगार करते हैं, उनको नहलाते हैं, मंदिर साफ करते हैं. When you use your hands, touch the deities, touch the altar, your desire of touch comes down. The dirty desires of touching opposite sex comes down. When you hear transcendental sound vibrations in the form of Krishna Katha, pastime of Krishna, Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, your desire for ear to hear Bollywood, Hollywood will come down. You should hear Kirtan every day. You see what happens to your desires. They'll vanish. Why? Because this sound vibration is not material, it is transcendental. It purifies all the senses, your ears, your tongue, your skin. If you bow down in front of Krishna every day, your whole body will get purified. So these are practical ways to control one's senses. How? Taking shelter of Hrishikesha, the owner of senses, master of senses. Okay. So this will Tani Sarvani Samyamya. Fix your consciousness upon me, or fix your senses upon me. All senses become steady. They will not remain out of control. So this is the meaning of the term Hrishikesha. It's very practical. You can try it out. Okay. Otherwise, forget it. In Bhagavad Gita 62 verse says, Krishna says, even one sense is enough for the fall down of living entity. Even one sense is sufficient. Like, for those 5 animals, or we discussed some time back, one sense is sufficient to make us embarrassed, to bring embarrassment to us. You have seen husbands molesting their own children. Fathers molesting their own children. Yeah. Why? Senses out of control. So anything wrong in the society is a function of senses out of control. So when one starts associating them somehow with Krishna, the Hrishikesha takes over the control. It's like Arjuna handing over, the chariot reins to Krishna. Now you take control of my chariot. It's like handing over our senses to Krishna. Krishna, you take over and control our senses. Okay, so this is the meaning of Hrishikesha. Let's go to next verse, 16 to 18. Just 5 minutes, then we finish. Ananta Vijayam Raja Kunti Putro Yudhishthira. Now, different other Pandavas blowing different shells, conch shells, and their names are mentioned in this. Okay. So I'll simply read the translation. King Yudhishthira, the son of Kunti, blew his conch shell, the Ananta Vijaya. Okay. So Yudhishthira's conch shell name is Ananta Vijaya. Nakula and Sahadev blew Sughosha and Mani Pushpaka. The great archer of King of Kashi, the great fighter Shikhandi, Drishdyumna, Virat, the unconquerable Satyaki, Drupada, the sons of Draupadi, and others, O king, such as the mighty armed son of Subhadra, all blew their respective conch shells. Sanjay informed King Dhritarashtra very tactfully that his unwise policy of deceiving the sons of Pandu and endeavoring to enthrone his own sons on the seat of kingdom was not very laudable. The signs already clearly indicated that the whole Kuru dynasty would be killed in this great battle, beginning with grandsire Bhishma, down to the grandsons like Abhimanyu and others, including kings from many states of the world. All were present there, and all were doomed. The whole catastrophe was due to King Dhritarashtra, because he encouraged the policy followed by his sons. Basically, again, prediction that who is going to win the battle. So all these indications suggest finally is Pandava who are going to win the battle. Okay. Hrishikesha is on the side of Pandavas. And Arjuna is being referred as Dhananjaya. Dhananjaya means who conquers wealth. So when Yudhishthira Maharaj performed this sacrifice, Ashwamedh sacrifice, then Arjuna went in all directions and conquered all the wealth. That's why his name is Dhananjaya. Okay. So we close here and then next 5-10 minutes for questions if you have, or comment if you have. Yes, Dipesh.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Very good.
Prabhuji, I was just reflecting on what you were speaking about the senses today. Now, and then my thinking might be entirely off, but senses, in my opinion, are a signal, right? It is basically an output of sorts. So even if someone like a deer getting fixated on the sound of a flute, okay, that is driven by some emotion per se. Or even if we talk about the examples that we're talking about, the Brahmin who saw the Shudra and Shuddhani, it was led out of lust more than anything. So senses, is sense a danger to us? Because according to me, senses are a good way to anticipate dangers also.
So Krishna defines in second chapter how lust enters through senses.
Okay.
Then it conquers your mind. So your mind starts meditating on what the senses experienced. And then how it enters or conquers your intelligence. Then intelligence starts planning how to acquire it. So emotion part is also covered in this process. That's why I mentioned 2 verses. Dhyayato. Dhyayato means what? Meditation. After senses experience something, meditation. Dhyayato Vishayan, any sense object. Pomsham, all living entities. When they meditate after having experienced, what happens? Dhyayato Vishayan Pomsha Sangat Tesho Pujayate. You develop attachment with that object or with that, girl, boy, whoever. What happens after you develop attachment? Sangat Sanjayate Kama. Then it manifests into desire to own it, to possess it. Sangat Sanjayate Kama, Kamat Krodha Vijayate. And if the desire is not fulfilled,
It is anger.
Anger. And anger leads to illusion. Illusion leads to loss of intelligence. And loss of intelligence means person doesn't know what is right or wrong. He cannot discriminate. Then he'll do something which will be embarrassing for him later on. This is the cycle. The entire advertisement industry is based on this principle. Why they show you advertisement again and again? So that you meditate on what you see. When you meditate on what you see, you develop attachment. You develop attachment, you develop desire to own it. And then you straight away go to the market and buy it. Isn't it? The entire, advertising industry is based on this principle. To allure our senses. Okay?
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you. Yes. Yes, Madan Prabhuji.
What was the name of the Muni who was meditating underwater?
Shaubari Muni.
Aubrey?
Shaubari.
Shaubri.
Shabri.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else? So how many of you fasted yesterday on Ekadashi? Okay, some of you. You can try. Yeah, that is also on austerity to become fixed in our devotional life. And how many of you are chanting every day? Okay, very good. Quite a few hands are. Shweta Mata, you can teach Meenakshi Mataji also how to chant. Okay, who Mata is chanting? How many rounds is chanting?
Yes. Only 2.
Okay, only 2. Okay. 1 round, no problem. 1, 2. Starting is good. At least you chant every day. And gradually will increase. Aishwarya Mata is chanting, how many rounds? 1. Ek hi kafi aur se maafi.
We want to do something which we
Huh?
want to do something which we can sustain.
Very good.
We don't want to increase and say, okay, आज 5 कर लिया, अगर 1 किया, वो नहीं चलेगा. तो हमें पता है भी फिलहाल ये कर रहे हैं. 10 मिनट लगते हैं उसको करने में.
Bas, perfect. But you should decide some frequency with which you will increase.
Yeah.
Some frequency you should decide. Devotional life is like driving on a steep road. Listen very carefully. Devotional life is like driving on a steep road. If you're driving on a steep road, you have to keep accelerating. And if you don't accelerate, what happens? You come down. So if you don't increase from 1 to 2, after some time, this 1 will also vanish. So you have to decide frequency. Okay, every 1 week, every 2 weeks will increase by 1 round. And then stick to it. Sustain it for 15 days, then move ahead. Sustain, move ahead. Sustain, move ahead. Okay. I'll maybe share sometime later that chanting the holy name is the Yuga Dharma of Kali Yuga. The best devotional activity in Kali Yuga is chanting. So it's very miraculous. Okay. So fix some frequency with which you will increase and stick to it. Normally, every Ekadashi we suggest you can increase 1 round. So that is a simple principle to follow. Every Ekadashi to increase by 1 round. Okay. Any other question? No. All right. Thank you very much for making it today. See you next week. Hare Krishna. We'll start from verse number 19. Okay.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, everyone.